Good afternoon, this is Melissa with the Swoosh.com, and I'm here to go over the play of the day and so far the play of the week. Even though it's only Monday, we'll have to see what this week brings. This is Dllr and a beautiful, beautiful bearish gap today. You know, sometimes you get up in the morning and you unexpectedly get something that works better than expected. You know, what can I say? The market did run red today. That isn't why this worked. This worked because it was a solid gap. However, I do think that the market running red helped push this down to a maximum target level, which it went to $13. And actually, this is just going to run out of day here now. This is just going to run out of day here into 4 o'clock with 2 more minutes left to the close. Otherwise, this thing would break to 13. I really thought at one point it could go to 12, 1260, 1250 today, and it's just going to run out of day. That's what's going to happen here now. So you can look at this bar and see it's the biggest bar on this chart. Huge, huge. This thing came in very, very late this morning. In fact, let's look at the pre-market data very quickly. Here it is. Really, really right before, caught this right before the open. 10 minutes before the open, it was 9:22 when I saw it. It had 135,800 some shares. I quickly, barely had time to rate it. I just was really on point today in reference to getting the entries and the targets because I didn't even really have time to write down the numbers. But I made a beautiful call on it and even went to the maximum target. The initial first target was to break the low of the day, then 14 bucks. And then I said 13.80. It did a bounce at 13.80, ran up, and then at one point when it reset up again, I said, you know what, this is going to go to $13. And then I thought it could go even more. Let's just look at this. Let's go to the 1 minute. Let's go back here this morning. Okay. So this came in very, very late. I prefer to get situated before the open as far as I can, but there wasn't a lot to look at this morning, so I kept hunting and looking for stuff right before the open. And sometimes that's the case on a Monday morning, actually. Now, it opened and did a crazy, crazy bar right here. There's nothing to do. You sit and you wait, and we waited, and you don't do anything here. And there's nothing to do in here at all. There's no proper entry. This bar is too big, too crazy. This was very spready today. In fact, where's it at right now? It's settled itself down now, but for most of the morning, the majority of the morning, the spread was anywhere from 1 penny, and then all of a sudden you look at it and it would be 15 cents. It was spready from the majority of the day. It's settled here down now into the close, but for most of the morning, the spread was anywhere from 1 penny to 8 cents to 6 cents to 15 cents to 13 cents. So you had to figure out a 15-cent spread in it in order to get it, in order to do it. So I was watching this then and stalking this. It booped over the high of the day. I didn't really want to see it to go over the high of the day again at all. I really didn't want it to go over the high of the day at all after this first bar. However, I was okay with it going over the high of the day for 10 cents. And as soon as it did, went over the high of the day for 10 cents and came back in and did a topping tail. And you have to wait for the confirmation after this kind of thing, and there's no setup, and then this kind of thing. And the market was rallying at this point initially before it fell off today. You have to wait for confirmation, wait for confirmation, wait for confirmation. This was trading kind of weird this morning too. It was like jumpy. What do I mean by jumpy? Like, look at this space in here. From the close of this bar here at 1530, all of a sudden the next bar opened at 1524. It wasn't like fluid. It was jumpy. A part of this was the spreadiness too. It's hard to explain. There was volume. The volume wasn't the issue. It was just jumpy. It was spacey here. So this happened, and you could have actually entered this here if you wanted to be aggressive. If you wanted more confirmation, I'll show you the play that I called. You could have done this. This was aggressive. But you would have had to put the stop with a 15-cent spread, plus I'd give it 3-5 extra pennies. To be honest with you, if you'd taken this trade, you would have had to give it at least 20 cents over this basey area, which is still a good entry. And it worked. It never went even back up and solved its place. But this would have been aggressive with a big stop after this kind of activity. That would have been very aggressive. It worked, okay? But there wasn't exactly all the confirmation you would have wanted to see here, which is why you would have had to play it tight. But even with the tightness, with the stop over the doji, you would have had to price in like 20 cents for 15 plus the spread plus a couple extra pennies. Now, as it turns out, it worked out if you did it. If you like the gap, if you have 100% conviction, you do it. I do that, but not after I see a crazy bar like this. Not after I see it go over the high of the day. It settled down, triggered, went. This was aggressive, but you could have done it. Real entry on this, though, oops, hold on, go back, was here. And I even said this was aggressive when I called it. $14.99. At this point, I said the stop has to be over $15.30. Why? Because of the spread. And also, I knew that this shouldn't back up over $15.25. And I knew if it went anywhere near $15.25, it wasn't going to work. So I priced the stop to be 5 cents over the $15.25. But really, you know, if this thing wouldn't have been so spready, you could have put it over here. But that wasn't the case. It was spready. Now, did it go right away? No, but it didn't do anything wrong. 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 And then I called an ad, or basically what people could have done as a new play. I called in the room, right in here again on the 5. So this didn't do anything wrong here. I was watching for it to set on the 5. Didn't do anything wrong here. And then all of a sudden it triggered, and it triggered immediately. This was very spready though. Again, stop has to be over the same place, 15.30, and it was just, I just nailed the entries on this today. Nailed them. And this fell off a cliff. And at this point here, I said, it might back up before it breaks a low, but it fell off a cliff. This is the power of the gap, that it didn't hesitate to just drop like a rock, okay? And then broke clear through under 14 with absolutely no suffering. It did a double bottom on the 1. Right here. It's a double bottom, double bottom. You got to be out of something, if not the whole trade here. There was no guarantee this was going to $13. When did I know it was going to $13? Hold on. After this set up here and rallied up here and couldn't barely get a lift to save its life. I saw this happening. I said, you know what? This is going to 13 bucks today. I said, this is going to 13 bucks today. You can take this again right in here. 13.53, stop over 13.80 because of the spread. And then I called this next third trade in this because this wasn't hardly anybody was even covering. This, first of all, this is not buying. And second of all, barely anybody was even covering. Hardly anyone was even covering here. And I was looking at the bigger picture. Just, you know, seeing this unbelievable drop off. And here's where I was looking for then, after it went through what I was, you know, surprised that it went through, blew through the 14, got to the 13.80. I said, geez, you know, this actually might go to 12.60 today, because I felt it was going to go to 13, and then it did. It did go to 13. It's just going to run out of day here, or it would have gone to past the 13. In fact, we'll go look at how it just closed here now. But this was the next target that it even could have gone today. It just ran out of steam then. It just was exhausted upon itself. The selling just exhausted itself then. Where did this close? Let's look. Yeah, look at this. This was 13.57, 3.57. Look, this would have kept going if it wouldn't have run out of time. Unbelievable weakness. Look, this scoop would have kept going if it wouldn't have run out of day. Look at this. So you could have even shorted this again here. I mean, I don't trade the afternoon, but this thing was just one of those ones that was a bleed. But the entry I called in this morning, this entry in here, and actually the first one that I called in the 1 on the 1 minute was just a thing of beauty. Absolutely. On a Monday morning after holiday, you just. Sometimes you never know. You just never, ever, ever, ever know when you're going to get a goodie. And, you know, you can get something out of nowhere. And if you get a great, fantastic entry in it, which I am very capable of just nailing when I see them, I'm very capable of calling them. I do that so often. I don't know anybody that does that as often as I do. You know, it's tricky. It's tricky to get them. You got to see it. You have to see it in real time. I'm capable of doing it. And I saw it today. I saw it in this, and I called it, and then I just knew it was going to go to 13. But, you know, you've got to just get the majority of the move. This isn't about getting the whole thing. This is about getting a great entry in something. You got to put the stop where it has to be because of the spread, and you just hold it as long as you can. I mean, you hold it as long as you can, piecemeal out of it if you have to, do whatever you have to do. This whole thing here, though, is your day from this play into this drop here into 1030. I mean, honestly, what do you want? I mean, it could have gone to 1260. It actually ended up going 80 cents under this, but this was a beautiful, beautiful play in here. And what I call no suffering. Absolutely no suffering. And then if you did the ad, it was even better. So every once in a while, something will come in late, very, 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 very late. And I can spot it, I can see it, I can call the entry when I see it, even though it's late. I was roughy with the numbers this morning on this for the targets. As it turned out, I had them still looking at the chart. I had enough time to look at it. I was quick about it. You know, every once in a while, something will come in, and it usually always seems to happen on a Monday. It does seem to be, because I don't know why. It just does, where you get a late gapper, and they can just rock and roll. And the volume was in this morning. There was no volume issue. It just happened to be spready. So you had to account for the biggest spread possible, which was 15 cents at any one given point in this in the morning. And as long as you do that, you're fine. You've got to have a good gap. You've got to have an exact entry. This wasn't whippy. It was just a little jumpy and spready. That's all. But you don't take a trade unless you, number one, know the gap is good. Number two, know the entry is good. And number three, are comfortable with actually trading something that has a 15-cent spread. If you're not comfortable with that, then you just don't do it. If you don't have conviction that you can trade a stock like that, then you just lay off of it. And if you're fine with it, then do it. You've got to be okay with it when you're risking the money. It's really no different than anything else that you would normally do. It just has to be priced incorrectly. So therefore, if you would normally risk a certain amount on a trade, and you know the spread is 15 cents, and you've got to give it 20 for the cushion, and the stop's 10, and it's got to be 35 cents, and that's what it has to be. But it's worth the risk to reward in the trade when you know the target's $1, $1.25, $1.50, $2 possibly, which, by the way, this, from the entry that I called, this ran $2. $2. And you never suffered. Not for a millisecond. I love entries like that, where you take it and you never suffer. This first one in the morning that I did not call because I wanted the confirmation worked, okay, was extremely aggressive. Even this I said was aggressive, but then the second trade I called in it, I said you got to be in if you want it here when I called it. And then it just rock and rolled after that, and boom, fell, and fell way harder and faster. And that's what happens once again. Look at the power of the gap, the power of the bearish gap, the power of what was happening in this. In the morning, the market rallied. This had one big bar up, came right in on itself. I even wasn't concerned about the fact it went 10 cents over the high of the day. I saw it happening. I was fine with it. And I had barely any time to prepare for this and called it right on. It really played out very beautifully. And this is the power of the gap. This is the biggest bar on this chart. $2.50 range. On a $15 stock. Look at that. Let's go back and see where was even one not even close to this. I don't even see any. Ooh, another ready over here. Let's see how big it is. Nope, that was only $1.18. This is the power of the gap. This is the power of the gap, and why it's very important to learn how to trade gaps. This is momentum. This is momentum. This is how you make money right here. Now, you still have to get the entry right. This is what I teach in the class, but I teach in the class how to find this thing, even how to find it in the first place, to know it's going to do this thing before it even does anything. And to get a call like this, to get a call like this before 10 o'clock in the morning, before this thing drops $2, is the reason to take my gap class. This is a reason to take my gap class, to get this kind of entries, to pick this thing, to know this is going to work, to even sit and watch it, to get the entry, to do it. This is a reason to learn my 26-point rating system and learn the entries that I teach in the class. My name is Melissa with thestockswoosh.com. If you're interested in taking my next gap class, if you are interested in learning how to find these gaps and play these gaps and pick these gaps, and please reach out and email me at melissa@thestockswoosh.com. This is Dllr. It is April 1st. Beautiful, beautiful, fabulous start to what was going to be a terrific month. I can feel it already. This was a sign that April was going to be a great month at trading. What I do, trading gaps, I knew it. I felt it even towards the end of March, that April was going to be a terrific month, just like February, if not better. And this was a beautiful start to the month. This is the reason that I love to trade, is because the way that these things act so beautifully with such terrific entries, just amazing entries in these things. To get something like that that runs $2, $2 from the entry I called. And you had time. You had time to do the first call I made. You had time to do the second call I made. If you hesitate, you miss the play. All right? And you're in this thing and it's rocking and rolling and you never look back. You just never look back. This is Dllr. If you're interested in learning how to find these gaps and play these gaps and pick these gaps, then email me at melissa@thestockswoosh.com. The next gap class I'm teaching is April 13th and 14th. I teach a 26-point rating system on how to play these gaps, how to find these gaps, how to pick these gaps in the morning to get them, to get these kinds of things like this. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful bearish gap. Have a great night, everyone.